welcome to our podcast where we are on a journey of learning about all things gerontology.
Stay tuned as we dive into any and everything older adults may face.
Follow along as we complete our Masters of Gerontology and bring you along for the ride.
Hi, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Francesca.
And this is the Gerontology Journey.
We've said gerontology a couple times now, and it's not
like 100.
Not necessarily a word that you hear all the time. So we're going to kind of define it and break it down for you.
Yeah, so gerontology, first of all, it's what we're studying in college to get our master's, which I think is super exciting, but most people don't know what it is. With that said, I really do think it is the intersection of three different things. And so for us, Francesca and I talked about it, and it really is sociology, public health, and a little bit of demography.
Yeah, it's the multidisciplinary study of aging. And what that means is all these separate pieces kind of come together. And really, they come together in champion of older adults and their quality of life. And gerontologists really believe that if the world were a better place for older adults, it would be a better place for everybody. And you know, there's a little bit of social justice and public policy involved with that as well.
I think a lot of bit of social justice.
At least for us.
At least for us, there is. Now, I mentioned that a lot of people are shocked when they hear we're getting our master's in gerontology. I think because they don't really know what it is. So Francesca was telling someone the other day, and what did they think it is that gerontology was?
The study of rocks. That's geology.
Something totally different.
Totally different. Very cool on its own, just like gerontology is very cool on its own. But definitely different. And you can get a degree in gerontology without getting a degree in healthcare, which I think is a very important distinction as well.
I think a lot of people confuse that. One of the questions that people ask me all the time when I say that I'm getting a master's in gerontology is, oh my gosh, so you're going to be a nurse or a physician, and that is completely wrong.
Right, that's a geriatrician. So very different ends of the spectrum there. But gerontologists really are focused on answering the questions that maybe doctors don't have knowledge of either. They're worried about the body aging and how to care for that aging body. And we're really worried about like what to do when there's a crisis with an older adult and how to solve that problem, not necessarily just for an individual, but for the masses as well. And it is becoming the masses, right?
It's incredibly fascinating to study about, talk about, and it really is something we both found through senior living. We're both going to share how we got into this field and how it kind of found us. However, I think it really is fascinating and important work that we need more people to get into, more young people, right?
Yes, we are in a class right now with young people, youngins.
Yes, absolutely.
Like 18 to 25, I would say. And every single one of them, I think I've scared away by just like looking deep into their eyes and saying, you should study gerontology. It's going to make you a lot of money.
Definitely. I think when we talk about gerontology, a portion of it is senior living. And in senior living, you can still come into this field as a caregiver with very little knowledge, and you can find the right place to work, and they'll help you grow and learn. And you can actually end up becoming an executive director, which is the big boss at a senior living community, or you can end up going corporate and making quite a bit of money.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's a job that you feel good about, and you're helping really an underserviced population. I think seniors, a lot of times, I said seniors. We're not even supposed to say that word.
She said a bad no-no word, and we're going to have a vocab lesson in a second.
Yeah. So older adults get forgotten quite often. And there is a reason that, you know, the oldest generation that we have in this country right now is called the silent generation. I think we forget about them quite a bit.
Definitely. And I know when we talk about jumping into this industry and working here that you can make a lot of money, but it isn't just about the money. It really is about that human connection and helping people and bringing joy into their lives. At least I know that's what it is for me. And it's an industry I've absolutely fallen in love with, and I can't ever imagine doing anything else. So Francesca, with all of that said, what brought you in to number one, senior living, and number two, to study gerontology?
So I've never worked directly in senior living. I've worked for companies that work hand in hand with senior livings. And I kind of found my way here because when I was little, I was a morbid little girl and I wanted to be a funeral director. And I just never really found my way down that path. And eventually I found my way into hospice care. And the part that really scared all of my colleagues around me about hospice was death and dying. And that was a part that I was really excited about. But working with older adults has really come very naturally to me because I was raised by my maternal grandmother. She had my mom when she was 45 years old. So she, by the time I came around, was already an older adult. And I just remember she was so strong and so able-bodied. And I didn't truly understand how delicate older adults were until one day she fell down. And I ran to my mom and I was like, Grandma fell down. And she got up so fast and like ran to her side. And that's when I really started to see that an older adult can decline really quickly. And I just remember thinking, like, my grandma was the most beautiful person in the world. And I used to stretch my lips out so they would get really wrinkly like hers. And then as I got older, I kind of lost that respect for the older adult's beauty. And I remember just thinking like, no, I want smooth lips. I want to be beautiful, right? And there's just like a different kind of beauty that I think we forget about. And now I'm back, right? I want to get back to that respect towards older adults' beauty. What about you?
First of all, before I start, I really love that idea of beauty that you had when you were little. I think intergenerational relationships are so important that I'm sure we'll do an episode on it one day. But really being exposed to grandparents, it is very, very important. But for myself, I really went to college to do something totally different. I don't have a BA in gerontology. I actually have a degree in design that I never really fully used. I think oftentimes when we go to explore a degree as a young adult, we just aren't sure what we want to do. I often wish I could go back and turn back the clock and say,
absolutely.
oh, do this or try this. I think we're asked to make a decision at such a young age, and we really don't know who we are. Sometimes I think it really takes until 30 to kind of know what you want to do. But the bottom line is I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I tried many different jobs, and I found myself pursuing a master's degree in a completely different field, and it just wasn't the right fit. So I went to work for a friend's company that worked in the senior, I will say adjacent to the senior living field in many ways, helping older adults find housing when they can't live at home. And I just really fell in love with helping seniors finding an immediate solution to a problem. I will point out that I said the word senior, which isn't the wrong word. We both did it. And we're going to give you that vocab lesson in just a second. But when I found this work, it was the first time that I found work that was fulfilling for me. And I really wanted to continue studying in it. I really enjoy learning what is the root cause of something. How can we fix something? And this degree really helps fulfill that. I also was very close to my grandparents, and I think about them every day. I have since lost both of them, but the work that I do with older adults, for me, really, it fills that love and that void that I have for my grandparents, and I do it in honor of them with every single person that I work with. I think that's very important to point out. But
let's get into the vocab.
Let's get into the vocab lesson, which we're both failing at today.
Right, absolutely. And we're never this bad. I think it's the camera.
It is. I will say, so you've heard us say senior, do not say that. And that's because that is the no-no word. There really is only one acceptable term when it comes to talking about those over the age of 65. There are instances that it can be over the age of 50 or even 55. And we'll go into that a little bit later. But there's only one really acceptable term. And what is that term?
Older adult.
There is no other term, so you will hear us say it on repeat.
Not senior, not elderly. We might actually get a little bit annoying, but it is the right way to say older adult is older adult. And that's because it's a relative term. I think both senior and elderly, when you have an image of a senior or an elderly person in your mind, you might have almost a negative connotation with those words. And
definitely, like, think about what you think of when you when someone says, oh, my grandma is a senior, or there's a little elderly lady on the corner, I know for me, what I immediately think of is like a little lady with white hair and pushing a walker, hunched over, who needs assistance, who maybe has a caregiver. That is really where my mind goes. And that a lot of that has to do with portrayal in the media.
For sure.
Do you think of something similar, Francesca?
I definitely do. I think of like someone frail, someone who needs extra assistance, maybe someone who has dementia, who's confused, who maybe has to ride public transit because they can't drive anymore and they got their keys taken away or something like that. And I know Cindy and I both have moms that are very like sexy young seniors.
Yes.
Seniors, I said it again. But they're both over the age of 65 and they don't want to be called senior. They don't want to be called elderly. They would be super offended.
They would be horrified if they were at like Ross and someone said, now, ma'am, do you qualify for a senior citizen discount? I think they would just be absolutely horrified.
Oh, and if you hold up like a piece of clothing for my mom and it looks anything like any of the Golden Girls would wear, she'd be like, I'm not wearing that. How old do you think I am right
That's
now?
for old ladies.
So older adults really is the term. Another one that kind of pops into my mind is nursing home. We don't say nursing home in our industry anymore. It is not socially acceptable anymore. Some socially acceptable terms would be
skilled nursing facility.
Yes. And I think it's kind of the same reason. The nursing home is definitely a negative connotation. And when I first started my journey in this industry, I thought a senior living was a nursing home. I didn't understand necessarily the difference between a skilled nursing and a senior living. And then, I got thrown into it and I learned very quickly. But
I actually think most people don't understand that difference. Right. It's such a big difference, and it's actually a big part of what I do in my career. So we're going to have a full episode that goes over that and breaks that down. And hopefully if you guys have questions for that, you can comment down below, because we'd love to answer any and everything that has to do with what constitutes senior living. I will say I do work with older adults and talking to them about moving into places. And whenever nursing home comes up, they say, oh my gosh, no, I don't want Nurse Ratched. So that idea of something like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which if you haven't seen, it's an excellent film and an even better book. But that idea is really still there in many older adults' minds.
For sure.
And that's not what it is.
I think of, was it Billy Madison, where he visits his grandmother in the nursing home?
Oh my gosh! And they have them doing like free work.
Yeah,
it's just horrible. I think a lot of people think that's like what it is.
Normal. That's not normal. It's totally illegal.
Not normal at all, and very illegal. People would go to jail or prison very quickly.
And they have.
Absolutely. So we're going to really work on saying the right terms. We may mess up ourselves. I will tell you, if you have a loved one that needs to go to a skilled nursing facility, they need some rehab, you actually might even have some folks there in the hospital saying to you the terms nursing home because it's so ingrained. But just know that really is, we're moving away from those terms, completely moving away. And we kind of have to. At this point, there are so many older adults. So we're going to kind of talk about the sheer number that's happening now.
For sure. I mean, the last really popular term that everyone's using right now that as gerontologists, we don't really love it, is the silver tsunami.
Yes.
And we're referring to this giant wave of baby boomers that is turning 65 literally every single day. And because of that giant wave of baby boomers, we are going to be a super aged society in the next 5 years, which is a crazy thing to think of.
Yes, it's actually 10,000 baby boomers are becoming older adults, meaning they're turning 65 every single day. I think that's just such a large number. And keep in mind, when they're watching the news, or I'm watching the news, sometimes it says the silver tsunami's coming. That's really kind of scary. I would say, oh my gosh, a tsunami's coming. That scares me. We shouldn't fear growing old.
Right, exactly. And at the end of the day, if they're saying something like that on the news and then not explaining it, I think especially if you're confused by it, you're going to fear what's going on. And then they immediately jump to talking about older adults, and you already have this fear in your mind, right? So the silver tsunami is coming, but we don't say that.
Certainly. And what I like about, you mentioned aging societies, that we as America, we really are starting to go there slowly.
Right.
And gerontology really discusses how we can be age friendly. And I think it's so cool. Can you describe some things that some other age friendly cities are doing around the world?
Something that our professor pointed out that I super love is that in Japan, they will write, kind of like how we have in America, if you pick up like a chapstick or a lotion, it says not safe for children. It'll say do not leave in the presence of elderly, which I think is so cute. And they'll have signs that say elderly crossing instead of like children at play. They're turning elementary schools into communities for older adults. And it's just really cool to see that they are not only accepting this wave, right, but they are respecting it.
I think it's so cool. Yes, I love that. One of the other things that I like about age-friendly cities and the design of age-friendly cities are just the idea of making places more walkable, which is a benefit not just for our older adults, right, who might use a wheelchair or a walker. For instance, having a grocery store accessible to all, walkable with a safe sidewalk, very easy to access, that wouldn't just benefit older adults, that would benefit disabled. It would benefit a teenager who's walking down to the store to purchase food for their family. So that's what I love about gerontology, is a lot of these changes, it just doesn't benefit just older adults, but all.
I mean, think about how much more connected to your community you would be if instead of getting in your car, isolating yourself, going to the grocery store, parking your car, grabbing a cart and walking in, you're walking down the street and saying hi to every single person you see while you're on your journey to the grocery store, right? Like,
I love that. I would feel less socially isolated, right?
Exactly.
And I'm nosy, so I'd want to know a little bit about everyone.
Cindy's like always looking at her neighbors, and she's like, oh my God, that guy was holding hands with her other neighbor.
Yes, I want to know all of this story. So I'm definitely, as me now, am a nosy neighbor, and I will continue to be a nosy neighbor as an older adult and want to chat with everyone. So we shared that people are fearful because of terms like silver tsunami for growing older, but they really shouldn't be. I think it's so cool that baby boomers are actually the happiest demographic that we have here in the United States. Francesca, tell us a little bit more.
So as we grow older, we'll start when we're young. When we're babies, everything's perfect. We get everything that we want, and we get our food handed to us, and we don't have to worry about the mortgage, and it's great. So we start off on this really high wave of happiness, and then as we age, as teenagers, 20s, 30s, we kind of like dip down and level out to maybe not being super happy all the time. And as we, get more responsibilities and that kind of weighs on us, we aren't as happy as we could be here in America. But as we start to age out of, right, maybe our house is paid off, or the kids go away to college, or they are out of the household, we start to go back up, and it just keeps going up. So once we reach mid 50s to 60s, 70s, 80s, it goes back up and it gets higher and higher. So, I mean, baby boomers are super happy in America.
Yes, it's like a U shape, right? And I think a big part of that is because they're financially successful as well.
They are the most financially successful group in America. So their cohort owns more of the wealth in America than any other cohort ever has, or if the statistic doesn't change, ever will have. So, of course, all of these things that they say money can't buy happiness, but maybe for a baby boomer, they're wrong about that.
Well, I think what we need to think about too with aging is that money can buy certain things like caregiving or the choice of where you want to live for senior living, whether
Maybe
it's
a more comfortable car that you can get in and out of, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I do think that money can buy certain advantages. How would you envision your life as growing older? What is it that you want?
If I were to think like, when I'm 75, my perfect life, right? I will still have my health, and I am grateful for that every single day. I will still be able to bathe myself and use the restroom on my own. I will have enough money to travel still. I will have my house paid off. Check on that happiness box. And I always make the joke that I'm going to die in my home. Because that's what I want. I want to stay home as long as possible. I don't want to live in an assisted living facility. I don't want to live in the nursing home. I don't want to live in a skilled nursing facility. And financial success or even financial comfortability really buys that, whether you want to believe it or not, because if you can afford care in the home, and that means you don't have to leave, I think that actually adds years to your life. I'm going to have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting fact.
Yeah. But what about you?
I think about this all the time. I really do. I think you and I talk about it a lot too. It's a huge topic for us. I'm a mom and my children are very important to me. And for my husband and myself, I do not want to burden my children. I really do want to make those decisions and have those decisions made and laid out for them. I hope to have my health as long as I can, not just my physical health, but my cognitive health.
For sure.
That's a big thing. Yeah. That's a big thing. And in the event that I have memory loss, I really want those decisions made, including where I want to live and how that will fit into the budget of things. But I want to stay home as long as possible. Yeah. I always tell people we spend our lives living in homes. We don't spend our lives living in hotels. So for me, going to live in assisted living that felt like a hotel, my husband would love it. He's very social. Love it. He is very social.
Some of them are so fancy. Yes. I think my mom would really love it.
Yes, my mom as well, but not my dad.
Ladies.
Not my dad. But I know my husband would love it. My husband would make friends. He'd be everywhere. But I think for myself, I want to be home as long as I can, as well as being a spoiling grandma. I absolutely love my children. I love spoiling them, and I just know that I am going to spoil the heck out of my grandbabies. So I hope to live to see that day that they're here. And I just want to enjoy my life. I want to travel. I really enjoy my friendships as well. So I want to continue those friendships, go on fancy lady lunches, and continue volunteering.
Another thing that allows you to live longer is having strong female friendships.
Yes, I advocate for that.
Both men and women.
Yes, I advocate for that. Friendships, whether you're married, single, in a partnership, find those friends, those really great people, and hang on to them. And I think what would also be really important to me, because I think a lot about social isolation, is volunteerism. I really want to be able to volunteer as long as I can. We have a lot of opportunity where we live to volunteer. For sure. I probably would volunteer for the food bank.
Yeah.
And just have such a fun time doing it. I think that is how I want to age. I want to volunteer, enjoy my life, spend time with friends, travel, and be with my children and grandchildren. And I don't want to raise children in those golden years. I want to be done with that.
I think at the end of the day, we're talking about something in a term that you're going to hear a lot, probably not only on our podcast, but as we move into becoming a super age society, which we will be by 2030. Statistically, we will have more older adults in this country than we will have children 18 and under. So that in itself is insane. But
I think they said 20% of our population will be older adults. It's going to be new for America. That is something we have never experienced before. So I can't wait to research and explore more what that might look like and kind of bring what other countries are doing to the table in our discussions.
And when we're talking about successful aging, I think that a lot of the pieces that we shared with what we want is what most older adults would want, right? They want their body to be young forever, which is not really going to happen, but they want social engagement, independence, they want physical and cognitive health. So at the end of the day, those are goals for everyone as they age. But specifically when we're talking about older adults and they get closer and closer to becoming 65, that's what really that they're thinking about and is really front of mind for them.
Yeah, when older adults are asked, when a group of them are asked, what is important to you as you age? What is successful aging? Some of the things that come up for them are social engagement, independence, being able to live independently still or make some of those decisions on their own, and then physical and mental cognitive health. We talked a little bit about what that mental cognitive health means, and for a lot of people that means not having memory loss or having mild memory loss, not having what many people say Alzheimer's, but what many people mean as dementia.
Right. And at the end of the day, something that gerontologists talk about a lot is this study by Rowan Kahns of successful aging models. And it's pretty much everything that we just explained. And they kind of list, if you were to age successfully, what would that look like? And first and foremost, the low probability of disease and related disability. And that's pretty self-explanatory. I feel like if you have been independent in mental function your whole life, and then all of a sudden you're very dependent on someone else, that's a very scary thought for anybody.
It's very hard. Incredibly hard.
And then as well as physical independence, right? If you are walking on your own, opening the door on your own, driving on your own, and then all of a sudden you can't do any of those things, that changes your life rather drastically. And I think that's one of the biggest arguments I see when children are talking to their older adult parents and it's time to give up the car keys. They really, really do not want to do that.
No, and sometimes people will still walk away.
Yes.
They will say, and I'm referring to the older adult, they'll say, I can go wherever I go. I've been driving longer than you. I remember when you, as my child, got the driver's license. How dare you take my driver's license away? Oftentimes, most families do wait for the physician to tell them,
Right.
the physician to send them the note saying they're no longer able to drive. That's a very, very hard one for many families.
Right. And so low probability of disease and related disability, maintaining high cognitive and physical function, and lastly, being actively engaged with life. And I think for seniors, I said it again, for older adults.
Oh my gosh, Francesca, my goodness.
For older adults, being socially isolated can actually take years off your life. It's the equivalent of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day.
Yes.
So it's important not only for older adults, but for us as well. If you are socially isolated, the difference is for older adults, it's harder to get out and do things if you physically can't, right?
If you're not able to drive, or if maybe you're wheelchair bound and you aren't aware of how to use the public transport, which has a wheelchair accessible bus, some of that's hard, or you don't have someone who can give you a ride. I think really maintaining that value place in society is very, very important. It's something that we talk about in regards to social isolation a lot. Sometimes people can feel like older adults are marginal members of society.
Right. And they're, like we said earlier, almost invisible. And it can really weigh on you mentally, right?
Absolutely.
Even if you're a mentally healthy person, that's going to get to you eventually.
Absolutely. So please check on your older adult neighbor. I think it's really important too for older adults to know what they can do to be social. I think volunteerism is a huge thing that a lot of older adults can do. And there's also many senior centers that folks can join.
I think when we were talking earlier about creating spaces for older adults and how it benefits everybody, if you think about how difficult it is for an older adult who's in a wheelchair, who maybe can't propel themselves in that wheelchair just to go down to the store. At least my house is definitely on a sharp hill, and then you have to go down that hill and then back up to get to the grocery store, and then you have to return. There's really no comfortable way to do that unless you have someone driving you. And even to get on public transport to go 2 blocks, really, you're going to wait, 40 minutes for the bus to come around? That's just not a good use of your time. And we live in the Sacramento area. It gets really hot, like 120 degrees hot. And that's just not safe for older adults. Like, if we had all of these answers in place, not only would they have a more comfortable drive to the grocery store, trip to the grocery store, so would we, right?
Absolutely. And I think taking advantage of the senior programs that are available are really important. Right. I will say it is still okay to say senior programs. It is still okay to say senior living. We don't have a replacement word for that yet. One of the things that I think is important to talk about, you talked about growing older, and in that folks are getting older. So they're getting older in age. But I think it's important to note that getting older doesn't always mean a positive thing for everyone, right? Your body is still facing health challenges.
Not only are we, as a society, growing older and more people are becoming older adults every single day, but we're also living longer. And, the advancements in medicine we think of are amazing, and they are amazing, right?
They really are.
Elongate our lives, but are those end years where, maybe you're bound to your hospital bed, that's a lot of mental weight as well.
I think something we discuss a lot in gerontology is the idea of quantity over quality. Yes, you can extend your life with medicine, and there's so many amazing things they can do. But are those years, months, or days going to be quality? I think that's a discussion that a lot of people have. And really, I think it's important for folks to kind of make that decision for themselves, what's important for themselves. And it's who knows what that right answer is. I know for me personally, I would prefer quality of life over quantity, meaning I would prefer quality years, quality months, over quantity of years and months. What about you?
I mean, I totally agree, but I think in the moment, because I did work in hospice for so long, like, that's a hard discussion to have. Like, hey, your body is failing you, and modern medicine, even as amazing as it is, it's not going to help you for long, and it's really hard for people to let go. And sometimes it's even harder for the families of those patients to
Absolutely.
let go and just say, like, hey, it's okay. If you decide to go on hospice, and this hospice is basically saying that you are no longer receiving life-saving treatment and you are just in comfort care to make the end of your life livable, basically, and you're not in immense pain. That's really hard. So I can't say that I wouldn't try to hang on there at the end, because I really don't know, and I don't think anyone knows until they're in it.
I don't think you know until you're in it. And it's very hard. And it's also very hard if you're the power of attorney making those decisions for your parents. That becomes, or your loved one, whoever they may be.
And we're going to talk more in later episodes about powers of attorney, trusts, we're
hospice.
Talking about these successful aging tips, and we want to die at home. And there are little tiny steps in between all of those things that will make it easier for an older adult if they plan better. And we have these discussions all the time, but we are like just one little piece of a gigantic puzzle when it comes to older adults planning and things like that. So we're going to have some guests join us on the podcast in the future, maybe estate attorneys and executive directors and things like that, that will better explain, better than we ever could, all these little nuanced pieces.
Absolutely.
So with that being said,
we really look forward to seeing you on the next episode, where we're actually going to talk about aging at home and what that looks like. It's very exciting. Francesca has a lot of knowledge in that because that's her field of work.
And I am definitely excited, and we're definitely excited to have you guys ask us any questions that you might have. So reach out, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram,
Facebook,
all the things.
Yes, YouTube. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having you follow our journey through school to get our degrees and masters.
So follow us on Gerontology Journey. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.